I'm going live.
Okay, just make sure you're, didn't show you live. I just make sure you weren't doing that.
Well, so hello. The live was unlisted, which I just figured out. I moved it to public, so it should start going out now. Thank you for checking. Technical stuff. Woo! All right, let's let these algos carry us out. We got the sound. Hello, everyone. How is everyone? Welcome. We're going to let the algo send it out. I had a little technical issue with, I had somehow this live was put up as unlisted and I had to change it to public so that it will go out. So it may take a little time to generate in the algorithms and get out there. Whew, how is everyone? Checking in. Tell me hello in the live chat if you're here. Be sure to put a thumbs up on the video if you're into this and excited to explore today. We are going to talk about people pleasing. Hi, Teresa. How are you? How are you feeling? How are you doing? What's your vibe? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments if you can. I know sometimes people are watching while they drive, so you can't always stop and comment, but I am so glad you're here. It's so nice to see you on here, and I hope things are going well for you. Welcome. All right. Yes, no, Jason was checking in as one of my moderators. I had accidentally listed the video as unlisted instead of public. So life is just crazy. Is it just you? No, it's not just you. Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. Sherlock Holmes, hello and welcome back. I am so glad to see you. Nice to have you here. We've got I'm already getting warm. My glasses are like steaming up. I've got the fan on, but oh my goodness, it is warm here. I am ready for the cool weather. I'm going to put up a poll here because polls have been working really well for us over the last couple of lives. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Drop a comment in the chat. I will say hello to you. How are you today? Today we're going to talk about people pleasing, and it's going to be really interesting to journey through the ins and outs of that pattern. Oh, so I'm going to put up a poll and let you guys answer the poll, and it just takes me a minute to throw it up. In the meantime, tell me hello. I see we have a YT Slips. Hello, welcome to Creators on the Crest. We have Tristane Santana from Kentucky. Hello. Morgan Kelly, hello. Girl Gone's here. Yes, good to see you again. Welcome back. Hi. How's everyone doing today? What's your vibe? Let me know in the comments what's your vibe today. My vibe has been to face some shadow work and deal with some of my codependent people-pleasing patterns. And you know, I've done a lot of work, but there's always more healing and more work to do. So this time it's kind of hit me on a deeper level. And it's very intriguing how sometimes our patterns play out in relationships, isn't it? Paul Freed, hello, USA. Woohoo, Ashley's here. Hi, Ashley. Nancy G. Yay, I'm looking over here at comments while I put up the poll here. Good to see you. Girl Gone says hermit mode, but still looking within. Yeah. In hermit mode, there's nothing wrong with a little hermit mode when you need it, you know? That's part of the energy I want to talk about, actually, Girl Gone, that you bring up is like, sometimes, you know, feeling like you're being pushed or drawn out to do something for someone else or to make someone else comfortable, and really you just need to rest and you need to go within and you need to have a little space. And being able to speak up for that, you know, and still have people understand that you love them, you care for them, well, the people in your inner circle. And you know, it's because that's the people that it's hardest with, right? That's the people where we really bump into the mirror sometimes, at least in my opinion. There can be mirrors that come up from random people we meet that aren't necessarily close to us as well. But when it comes to close relationships, when there's triggers that happen, that's where, at least where it gets me. Let me know what you guys think. Paul. So Paul, yeah, I am sorry that you lost your mother and that she has passed, and I hope you still have a beautiful relationship with her. I am doing collective messages today with the theme of breaking the pattern of people pleasing. But 2 days from now, Sunday evening, this Sunday evening, the 24th, from 7 to 8 p.m. Central here on the channel, I'll be doing live Q&A. And I would love to invite you to come on and ask a personal question. So if any of you on here have personal questions, or you want clarity on something and you want a little mini reading, come to my Sunday evening. Now, I will say, get there early, closer to 7 p.m. Central if you can, because I fill up pretty quick and I will just go through the hour and get to as many readings as I can. All right, so would love to see you back on Sunday night if you're able to make it and get a free mini reading. And it's a lot of fun. And the community is like so supportive, and everybody's talking and communicating, and we usually find overlapping energies. It's like not only just one person dealing with it, right? Somehow these things have a way of showing up in people who are like-minded and like-hearted. So, all right, I've almost got this poll done, and I want to get this up here and see if you can see it. Hopefully I didn't have any spelling errors here. Let's try. And even if I did, it's okay, because we're not gonna be too extra people pleasing. So you have a poll up right now, and I'm just interested to hear from all of you. What is the best benefit, in your opinion, of resolving people pleasing patterns? These are the patterns that sometimes are running subconsciously, usually are running subconsciously, and then they come to our awareness in our conscious mind, usually through some sort of failed reaction or some sort of recognition that maybe we abandoned ourselves or maybe we rejected ourselves instead of taking a risk and being rejected by someone else because we didn't want to speak up or we couldn't stand our ground. Sometimes this comes up in childhood for people. Other times this comes up throughout even older years, where they are becoming aware of how they might acquiesce, people please, keep the peace at the risk of their own truth and their own independence and their own freedom and their own opinions being set aside, muted, silenced. And that builds up and builds up until finally, you know, it kind of bites you. And the universe says, okay, it's time to deal with this now. So let me know. Have a vote in the poll. What is the best benefit? Would it be maybe you have experienced abandoning yourself in the past? Sometimes too, I wanted to mention this because this came up specifically before I started the live today. Sometimes these patterns play out with us in a specific person, like one of our parents. Sometimes these patterns are more general, like we find ourselves really people pleasing in public situations and unable maybe to set the boundaries there, whereas we have an easier time at home, or vice versa. For me personally, it is when I'm closer to people, I want them to be happy. I want to have compromise, but I have to ask myself, am I really communicating in an honest and authentic enough way that I'm not just going along to get along or to quote unquote keep the peace? Am I making decisions and am I sharing communication that has to do with what they want, or just acquiescing to that and just saying, I'll just go along, you know, instead of really saying, I don't want to do that, or this isn't a good time for me, or, you know, no, maybe it's no, flat out no, right? And getting more comfortable in that. Yeah, brick wall waterfall. Okay, what a cool handle. Love it. I always figure it's easier to let myself down than someone else. And, you know, this people pleasing pattern is steeped in the conflict, right? Because we in our nature, we're humans, we want to connect with other humans, but we get conflicted because sometimes we are not balanced in that way, where our own needs can be met and the needs of the other person. And sometimes that takes communication, compromise, negotiation, right? That kind of thing. And we don't always go there naturally. Sometimes we skip that. And, you know, it depends a lot on personality and the personalities you're dealing with. If you had, let's say when you were young, a really overbearing parent or something like that, it could have shown up in a pattern there where maybe you truly were silenced as a kid, right? And maybe you weren't taught how to be able to hold value for yourself and your needs and your opinions and your desires and what makes you comfortable and uncomfortable. And so you weren't allowed to do that. So as you grew into adult, you just make sure everybody else is fine, you know, and that fear of rejection, or even I wrote down here a fear of disappointment, like brick wall waterfall says, you know, you can handle, or maybe it's easier for you to let yourself down and deal with your own self-disappointment than it is to have someone else be disappointed, or even just to disagree, be disappointed, reject you, make fun of you, whatever it is, right? It plays out in different ways depending on our particular experience. Girl Gone says, I either ignore them or stand my ground. I do not people please like I used to. Good. Yes. See, so that's another thing I wanted to say is some of you are at various levels of doing the inner work and recognizing this pattern in yourself. And so, yeah, a lot of us have had to learn how to stand our ground, how to, at times, maybe there are some patterns with people where there are things that come up, and because we know the reality of what's going on, the truth behind it, we don't get as triggered and we can ignore it. But I know for me too, I tend to have avoidance, and that tends to be my anxious pattern. Hello, Alice. Welcome to the live. So that can be combined in there too, whether you have kind of an anxious attachment pattern, an avoidant attachment pattern. For me, it's avoidant. But there's also a reality to the fact that I need my personal space. This is part of my blueprint. I need to get balanced and right within, and then get that cup full, which I always talk about on the lives. We talk about that Ace of Cups, right? And it's one of our ways that we replenish ourselves, and we have a new beginning within ourselves. And then when that beautiful fountain of us is overflowing and we've got our energy right, we can serve from that place. But a lot of people run into burnout. This plays out in career too, and in your endeavors that way, because you could be doing so many things to please your boss, to please, you know, to climb the next rung on the ladder. You could be doing those things and people pleasing when really you're putting more stress on yourself. And so at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves, is that really the healthiest approach? Is that really the direction we want to take things in these deeper topics like people pleasing? Also, that's a big part of codependency and then struggling to communicate. But Girl Gone mentions, I've done some work on that. So now I've been able to find, you know, and I really like you say stand your ground, because for me, I definitely have that where it's like, and I have a Taurus moon And so sometimes that standing my ground is locked in. And it can also, what I'm noticing also is I can go almost into a full block, a full wall, not a waterfall, but a full brick wall waterfall. I love this because even that handle to me just says so much about the energies, right? And I can get behind that wall stubbornly. So then I have to deal with, okay, now have I gone too far the other direction? Am I overly stubborn here? And am I, still attempting to hide? And so these little subtle ways. So the more work you've done on yourself, the more subtle and tricky some of the subconscious energies can be. But, sometimes it plays out in a pattern. Sometimes it plays out in work or somewhere else. And I meant parent, not pattern. Pattern with a parent, or pattern in the workplace, or pattern in romantic relationships. So our poll is really interesting. If you haven't filled out the poll yet, you should see it at the bottom. And here we have a pretty good mix of, people want the benefits of releasing that self-abandonment. I did that a lot as a child. I abandoned myself to care for the emotional needs of my parents. And they were both in service roles, and I was raised to do what I wanted to do as long as I was helping others. But I wasn't taught how to do that with healthy boundaries, where my energy ends and someone else's begins. And so I had all this spiritual, emotional loosh that I had to clear out in my 20s and 30s. And I made a lot of mistakes along the way. And I definitely kept abandoning myself for a while. Now I'm much better at staying with myself, but it still peeks out sometimes and rears its head, and it's come up for me. And the fear of rejection, oh gosh, this for me has been a cycle. I don't know about y'all, but tell me, have you felt like sometimes your confidence waxes and wanes? And there's times where you feel super confident, and there's other times where you kind of feel that doubt creep in. And, some of that can be connected to a fear of rejection, or a fear of being laughed at or misunderstood even. So, what I put in the poll, there's even other ways this can present itself. And reclaiming my voice, I love that one because that's where we really take it back, like Girl Gone was saying. Brick Wall Waterfall says, I think I also assume people are thinking similarly to myself, and that's obviously wrong. I have done that. I have done that. And also, if you happen to be, Sherlock Holmes says, Loosh. Yes, Loosh. It's Loosh. And we'll talk about Loosh in a minute. But I saw that popped up. I see it. Yeah, so sometimes if you're coming forward, and this can show up in different ways too, but maybe you're coming forth with really good intentions, but someone else is coming from a selfish place. Michael Diamond's here. Hello, Michael. Just saw Michael. It was a pleasure to see him in person. That was really cool. And yes, just wishing you safe travels. Yes. Yeah, so sometimes, we're the selfish ones. Sometimes the other people are. And then there's judgments around being selfish. And is self-care selfish? And is by honoring myself and my words and what's true for me and what I need in the moment, is that, and that makes somebody else feel a certain way, is that bad? Or is that me just honoring myself? So it's that fine line of like, am I selfish? And somewhere in there is your intuition, right? If you found my channel, you probably have a nice lit up online intuition. And somewhere in is that beautiful voice of the intuition that is trying to speak up and help, right? Is trying to let you know what's going on. So yeah, and sometimes it's like kind of teaching children sometimes, like teach my children. They have, a supportive group of adults around them, but them having to learn that not everyone in the world is going to be like that, right? Not everybody is going to have your best interest. Not everybody is going to be honest and truthful with you and authentic, and learning that, right? Learning that it's a big lesson to learn. It's a big lesson to learn. And even with people we love. Got to get a sip of water. I've noticed I need to stay extra hydrated when I'm working through these people-pleasing patterns and issues, because when you recognize that you've fallen into that and you've misstepped somehow for yourself, and you're an intuitive and loving and caring person, sometimes you can beat yourself up a little too much about it. So then you have to face the self-judgment. And sometimes these things just all wrap up into this nasty, messy ball of wax or yarn, and you just have to try to untangle the mess, right? 100,000% burnout in your career. Whew, yeah. And I was just speaking actually just with Michael about this, how like even people who are self-employed and their own bosses can continue the pattern of burnout and overworking and just pushing themselves so hard, even about something they're passionate about. But then there's burnout in a job that doesn't really serve you, but you're trying to stay afloat and have resources, right? So, you know, sometimes, hi, Victoria, welcome, welcome from Russia. Yay, from Russia. That's amazing. Glad to have you here. Sometimes we in these patterns here, we are live. Hi, Karen, we are live. Hello. Sometimes in these patterns, you know, we can think, oh, I'm gonna, you know, leave this job where I have a boss and they're telling me what to do, or the workload dictates what I have to do, and you know it's not your purpose and you know it's not your thing, and you leave that. But if you don't deal with like some of your own behaviors and how you related to that world when you get out of there, some people carry that into their self-employment, their entrepreneurship. I certainly did. When I first started the YouTube channel here, Creators on the Crest, I was like looking at these tarot readers who were, you know, doing amazing things and putting out like 20 plus, you know, videos a week or something crazy like that, like all the signs, and then a monthly reading, and then the weekly reading, and then the bi-weekly reading, and the mid-month, and the quarterly, and this and that. And it's like, whoa, like that kind of a pace does not suit my lifestyle. I'm a homeschool mom. I'm very busy. I have a little part-time job that I work remotely. And so, yeah, it's really interesting to analyze that and figure out where you're at with it. So, but yeah, jobs, even self-employment jobs, can burn us out. Ashley says, and I'm kind of going back here, when I try to scroll the comments on my phone, it doesn't work as well, so I have to look over here. I realized one reason I people pleased is because I had no idea who I was. Yes, I let people's opinions of me, and if they were happy with me or not, define who I am and how I felt. And isn't that crazy how we do that? But we absolutely do. A lot of times, what you had learned happened at an age before age 25. Age 25 is where your brain is fully formed, the frontal lobe, everything is into adult, right? Physiology speaking, right? So when we're young and we're so impressionable, even if our intuition is there and our soul is there, our environment is constantly telling us something else. And so we may even like rate ourselves or judge ourselves on if people are responding to us in a happy way or a negative way, when somebody else could be carrying something completely unrelated to us, which is affecting their response, and they're projecting the energy. And then all of a sudden we pull that on and we make it part of our identity, which it really isn't naturally, right? And so of course we do this. That does happen, absolutely. And I love how you are aware of that. Your awareness of it, first and foremost, is what's going to bring the transformation, right? So when you're aware of your patterns, you can then resolve them, right? You can then take the steps to resolve them. So loosh, so some of you have heard the term loosh before, and I'll give you my definition of it. A lot of it has to do with what we've been speaking of, where we are influenced by, and it's somewhere in our life, you know, for survival reasons or for reasons of acceptance, we took on energies that were not of our natural and true source energy, right? And so it's the opinions and judgments of others, it's the societal norms that a lot of you have been through, societal norms that never quite fit right. It's like having clothes that are too tight or way too baggy. Something doesn't feel right or fit right about it. And yeah, this is, you know, the loosh is kind of the darker energy that builds up and becomes a part of something we have to address in the shadow work, and we have to clear it out. Well, we don't have to. We have a choice to do it. We have the choice to be able to clear it out and untangle and disentangle ourselves from some of the patterns that were woven. And you know, some of these have left quite an imprint. So this is not easy work, what I'm talking about. This is the deeper, tougher, energetic, committed work that one has to be willing to do upon themselves. And, you know, in the whole process, since most of us have judged ourselves for how we've been codependent or people pleased, we have to let that go too. And we have to pull out our toolkit and begin using some tools to help us with it. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Well, Victoria, I see you don't speak English, but you're doing pretty good with the messages you've left. So hopefully, you know, you can, you know, and I hope I do have translations turned on. I don't know how it applies to lives, you know, the auto dubbing. I do have that turned on. I just don't know if they put it out in like, it says like 13 languages or something, but I don't know which ones. I'd have to look more deeply into that, but it could be that on the replays, the auto dubbing will be available as well. So maybe check back on that if the English is a little too much. You can also, after the replay goes up, I know a lot of you know this, but on the settings on YouTube, you can slow down or speed up the talking of whatever video you're watching. And so some of you short on time, you can, you know, maybe put it on 1.5, and some of you might want to slow things down when you're really trying to absorb a message. So that's a pretty cool thing that YouTube lets us do. I think it goes all the way up to like 4 times the speed, which I wouldn't be able to. Once it gets above 2, I'm kind of like, okay, now I can't focus and concentrate because the voice sounds so fast. But everybody, you know, has their way of listening and their way of hearing. So Karen shares, my thing on boundaries is based on the idea that every time you say yes to someone else, it shouldn't mean you're saying no to your future. So often a yes to other people is a silent no to yourself. Yes, and that's that subtle, sneaky energy I was mentioning, because even sometimes when we're around people we love who are really excited about something, we might be like, yes, 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 and like really playing into that, or possibly even committing to something, when inside ourselves, the other voice of, I'm not really aligned with that. I'm excited for them, but you know, have we put ourselves on an energetic cord to the other person's need or desire? It can be really easy to do, especially when you care about someone as well. So that's where these awarenesses of these subtle, tricky energy, it's really important to have that be something that you're willing to work with. Karen says, some people think they are afraid of saying no, but they don't realize they say no all the time to themselves. Absolutely. I used to think I was afraid of saying no, but I don't really have that fear anymore. I think my thing is, I will sometimes in my responses and my communication overpromise something energetically, and then when I don't actually like provide the return on that as to what someone else might have expected, then there's a disappointment, right? And so some of these boundaries and the people pleasing, it goes into that whole field of like expectations. And that can be a good mirror too, because what are you expecting out of yourself? And are you being real with yourself about what you can expect out of yourself? Because other people will meet you based on, you know, what you're communicating. Most times, unless they're like highly psychic and intuitive, which some of you are very much so, and you'd be able to kind of feel this in people. Now, some of you, I did want to mention, some of you may have a family member that you see people pleasing all the time, or maybe you have a child who has a tendency to do that and you've noticed the pattern young, and that's good because then you can help empower them and do something about it. It's a little trickier when it's like an adult family member and how to bridge the subject with them, but some of you see it in other people, and sometimes that what you're seeing in other people, it might be a recognition of something in yourself. Not all the time. Sometimes people are carrying much different energies. So it's that discernment, that tricky discernment we have to use. But yeah, good point there. Some people, okay. Girl Gone says, I feel like there's times where we should stand up for ourselves and times we don't need to waste our energy. Wow. Yeah, and distinguishing that for ourselves unapologetically, right? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because other people could be coming at you with their projections and expectations, especially if, it depends on their relationship to you too, and what they've seen and their relationship to themselves. So yeah, I would say sometimes those boundaries need to be a little bit stronger, because if we go in and we're wasting that energy and the depletion inside us, that's where the opportunity for more of that loosh to come in, and that icky energy, that Gnostic loosh. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, Kimberly's here. Hello, Kimberly. How are you? Good to see you. A couple of you I know pretty well. I might switch a couple of you to moderators here on the channel. Don't worry, you don't have to do anything too crazy. Just, keep the environment respectful and happy. And if you don't want to do it, I'll remove you. So if you see that a little blue wrench, if your name turns blue, be sure to let me know if you don't want to do it. I'll take you back off. But if I see a few people that I know, maybe have built a relationship with, it helps to have a few extra moderators around. Although we've formed a really good group, and I think a lot of the people here are very, very accepting, and they want to actually benefit from the material and want to work through it. So Karen says, you were thinking I speak Russian. That would be so cool if I did. I would love to fluently speak another language. I know a little French, enough to be dangerous, because that's my heritage. I know a little Spanish, enough to be dangerous, but Russian, no. But maybe that would be, on my list. I do like studying language and etymology and things like that. Wynn says, hi. Hi, Wynn. How are you today? Welcome, welcome. Did I get everybody? Don't choose somebody else's worth over your own. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You have to be able to value yourself and hold your own self at a high worth, just as you would anyone else who's in alignment and respectfully working through those energies with you. Kimberly says, one of the most powerful phrases that I've heard is, when you try to keep the peace, you start a war inside yourself. Yep. And maybe it's less about keeping peace and more about working to find the middle ground. The key with that is, like Girl Gone was saying, the other party, the other person, has to be willing to move to the middle ground too, right? And so we can reframe that a little, but also we still have to ask ourselves, am I going to put all this time and energy coming to the middle ground, into communication, compromise, negotiation, all of that? but they're not going to move an inch, then where do we go with it, right? So it's these dynamics. Best benefit of resolving people pleasing: to be able to accomplish more, having more time to focus on what you're passionate about. Yes, absolutely. I have that too. I have that too in my energies in my world. Yeah. And sometimes when there's a lot going on, it's just definitely something that can get the best of us sometimes, because we live busy lives. Accommodating a-holes is rarely about peace. I'll give the truth rattle for that one. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. And, you know, bless their hearts, some people are unintentional a-holes, and I have been that. I have been that in my past. You know, I didn't set out to be that way, but I wasn't doing, you know, my early 20s, I was all over the place. I wasn't doing as much inner work. I was trying to find myself. It was messy, you know. Some people are unintentional a-holes, but it's still, even if they're unintentional a-holes, it doesn't mean you have to put up with it, right? Doesn't mean you have to accommodate something special for them. We're going to get some empowering, helpful messages from the oracle cards here, just along this topic of people pleasing and the benefits. We've done a lot of personal sharing, and I want to thank everyone for speaking up. If you're enjoying the content, be sure to put a like. Just a reminder while I'm shuffling too, 2 days from now, on the 24th, from 7 to 8 p.m. Central here on the channel, I will be doing free live mini readings. All right, it's a great group. Come early. If you have a burning question, you really want to get a little mini reading, make sure you come closer to the 7 p.m. mark and drop your question in, because I will go for 1 hour. I will get as many people as I can, and then I'll come back 2 weeks later and do it all over again. So yes, thank you so much. Michael saw the 1111. Nice. All right, this is the Earth Warriors Oracle. And the Earth Warriors Oracle is very, very powerful. I'm going to be honest, these are different archetypes that I don't always really know a lot about, or even like the exact pronunciation. But I really love looking at the images, and I think you will enjoy them too. And we got a number 10, Kai Tiaki, the guardian of Pt.1 Nuko. So I'm going to show you this, but I do want to get a little help from the author, who is Alana Fairchild. I mean, this deck is so cool, y'all. Alana Fairchild's Earth Warriors. The initial vibe I get before I look in the book, let me show you. Look at this. Oh my goodness, look at this powerful, beautiful card. The wings really, really stand out to me. The radiant wings going up along the back to the point of light. The connection, you can definitely see there's a lot of energetics going on here with this card. There seems to be at the bottom part like a tapestry or a weaving of some kind. Which, you know, indigenous cultures are very, very rich with their art and their craft of weaving and the dyeing of fabrics and the beading. I'm thinking about the beading like the Native Americans or South and Central Americans do, and it's just so colorful and so rich. I really feel like, before I read this, I really feel that this is a card of stepping into your empowerment, of lifting yourself up out of some of these people-pleasing energies. But here, I'll hold it while I read. It says, you are Kaitiaki, the guardian of the divine feminine. So it's a divine feminine archetype here. Your relationship with Mother Earth, which is Pt.1, which is what you're the guardian of, which is a really cool relationship. This is actually something that Michael and I were just recently talking about, and he's done some journeying of his own and really connected with the earth energies. And before I got on the live today, I was listening to some earth frequencies I really felt called to do that, to anchor myself in. And I really loved it because it was less mental. I was just allowing myself to absorb the frequencies. And it says that the earth here is sacred, empowering, and healing. But how often do we let Mother Earth, Pachamama, Gaia Sophia, however you relate to our mother planet, how often do we actually let her assist us with transmuting and transforming some of these energies? Maybe sometimes we do. We get out in nature, we really connect. Maybe other times we kind of forget. We get so overstimulated or mentally or emotionally off center, or the loosh is just so thick that we can't see through it, right? You are destined to become more spiritually intimate with Mother Gaia, Mama Gaia, sharing in her creative potency and wisdom. Lean into her and trust her support, even as you serve her by courageously voicing your truth. There it is, courageously voicing your truth. Not saying the words of a people pleaser, saying the words of someone who is actually able to find their truth and share it in a direct, real, respectful, and loving way. And how anybody else receives it is up to them and what their lessons and learnings might need to be. She is a great ally, a friend, and a healer as you dedicate yourself to your connection with the Mother Earth, the Mother Planet. She dedicates herself to you, and she will start speaking to you through the creepy crawlies, the birds, the frogs, the locusts. We got those locusts going on right now, the cicadas, in their rhythms, in their harmony, in their frequencies, right? So what a powerful message there from Mother Earth, Mama Gaia, Gaia Sophia, Pachamama, whatever loving name you have for her. So that's the divine feminine showing up, softening, but also understanding the power behind the feminine energies and the co-creation with the planet herself. Very cool, very cool. Grogan says, I've been focused on my spiritual journey and learning about myself. So if anything tries to steer me from my path or disrupt my peace, I will not entertain it. I love that. I love that boundary. I actually love how you've worded that. It's very direct. It's very simple. It's very to the point, and it's very clear. Woo, I just threw a card. Got to pick it up. This is our next oracle card, and it went flying out. But I'm catching up here. Karen's been seeing the power numbers, 1111, 222, 333, the master numbers, so on. Crazy how much your week of house hunting has been full of power. I love that. I love that. That's very powerful. Maria Leal, hello, hello. Welcome to Creators on the Crest. I hope you can stick around and hang out. If you're enjoying it and you haven't subscribed, maybe consider subscribing. Number 10 on the card, Karen is saying 10 is a closure number. I would agree with that. It's a number of completion. It's a number of closure. The other thing that I like about 10 is to me, it's a balance number, because when you think about like the 1 and the O, like the on and the off, it kind of represents the coming together of lessons, polarities, dynamics that were out of balance. It to me, it brings them kind of into that union and that like harmony there. And so it can feel, 10s can bring us into feeling like full circle moments. And those can be full circle moments that are endings or closures or completions. Those can be full circle moments that propel us into the next new adventure, which is the next card we got. So we're going to maybe be taking a great adventure. So I am curious to see how you might be actually traveling. And if your travels are actually physical, are your travels energetical, like more energy focused? Okay. And we have great adventure here, and we have like a ship, like a Viking ship that's like exploring the open waters. And it does say take a risk and venture forward. So when we're thinking about people-pleasing patterns and how sometimes we'll subconsciously say things that we don't really mean or we're not really aligned with, it can be a little scary to really courageously disagree or bring up a different perspective, or like Girl Gone said, make the decision that I'm not gonna invest in that direction, because that might take away some of my courage. That might take away some of my ability to move forward. So I really want to fill myself up with the relationships, the dynamics, the communications that are going to be like a wind in my sail, so that I can take that risk and I will be on my own side and I will navigate my journey and I will stand at the helm and I will explore, being in alignment and knowing that it's okay for me to choose myself sometimes, and that that's not a selfish thing. Of course, we need to relate to people. Some of us are stewards for younger ones, for children, right? And in those dynamics, we have some responsibility there. We can't just say it's all about me and I'm gonna, we can, and a lot of people do, kind of dismiss their stewardship responsibilities of their children. But at the same time, we know where that gets us, with more wounding. And then children try to over please to try to get attention. They start acting out, all these things that they lead up to. But how can we courageously set those boundaries and let ourselves be important, and also let others, especially those, I'm talking about those closest to us who we do have a value and an investment in, also, be given the chance to come into that authentic communication with us. Yeah, if it's somebody, that is not aligned, okay, or they are very one-sided or very narrow-sided, right? Don't waste your time trying to please them. They're probably never going to be open to your perspective, right? But if you're in relationship with people, and this is where it gets tough, is if you're in relationship with people and you're noticing those dynamics, but if somebody really loves you and they're invested in you and they believe in you and you believe in them, even with you correcting these mistakes of maybe people pleasing, and then you start to have your voice and you start to be more direct and be more firm in your boundaries, then they will love you through that. They will accept your no's. They will embrace when it's a no and say, I honor that in you, Those are the kind of people, as you evolve, you're going to want more and more of. People that honor your yeses, honor your no's, can be present, hold space while you grow through mistakes, right? Yeah. And Karen says, I think this is cool because it's like about steering the boat. Your attention is kind of like where you steer your boat. When we stop people pleasing, we are taking command and captaining our attention, being responsible, and we get closer. Yes, it's that wind in our sails. We gift it to ourselves. And then, as we've been told, we can work with our mother planet to get really in tune with her and work with her elemental energies as well. So yes, I love the analogy of your attention, energy goes where your attention flows. Yeah. Okay, and here's really interesting, because I was shuffling the daily crystal inspiration while we were talking, and we got kind of what I feel is like a stone for the masculine. So we've had the divine feminine come up in this, and now we have the divine masculine coming up here with tiger's eye, and it says overcome your fears. Now with this particular card, I do feel the masculine energies. I feel a little more action and active energies saying, hey, it's really time to tackle these fears. But what's nice about tiger's eye, and you don't have to be the masculine to benefit from using this stone. Tiger's eye could be a wonderful stone. They often polish it so it looks really, really cool with these different striations. So they make really good stones in your palm to kind of like as you're working through the energies. Sometimes if a stone to me feels more masculine and feminine, I might bring it into my left or my right hand, depending on where I want to work with the energies. And it can be a great stone to kind of help you when you feel afraid. I like rubbing on the smooth stone. So sometimes you can find one that's really good where you can palm it, rub it. And then, yeah, Karen's mentioning it looks like wood and fire, and wood feels like a masculine element, like the stability, what we're building inside of ourselves. Also how we nourish ourselves and how we draw up nourishment as well. Girl says we're human beings, but we're also spiritual beings. Absolutely we are. Absolutely we are. And both sides need to be focused on. You know what's like super cool is that I love that topic, what you're saying, like spiritual beings having the human experience. The human experience can be one of the most dense, polarized experiences that any being, I believe, in this universe can have. And so finding value in both and allowing both and finding the balance in both, not being so, you know, removed and airy fairy that you're up in the clouds all the time and you have trouble grounding your energy, but also not focusing overly on the grind and getting through life and not reaching into some of that curiosity about the greater parts of yourselves, the multidimensional aspects of yourself. You know, that could rob you of an experience too. So it's definitely important to understand the spiritual exploration and the power that that gives us, but also the power we have as humans to actually begin to combine the two together. That's the shamanic work, you know, that's the journey of evolution for us, is how to blend those energies together and actually have those be activating in our field of awareness. So yeah, they're both valuable, important energies. Very good stone for protection. Thank you for assisting with that as well. Yeah, I kind of feel like when it comes to the sensitivity we can have from overcoming what we're really afraid of when we're up on those big fears, like the big life lessons, sometimes we forget we have little tools, we have friends, we have helpers, you know, that we can turn to. And Tiger's Eye would be a great little helper. Should be easy to get your hands on if you have like a crystal shop somewhere around. You can order online. There's lots of sellers on Etsy and things like that. Tiger's Eye singing bowls, really? Oh my gosh. Yeah, if I could, I'd have a whole selection of crystal and different singing bowls. That would be amazing. Singing bowls. Is it bowls or balls? Are they balls? You like, do they rub together? I have some stones. I think they're called moki balls, and they kind of like go together. But yeah, there's a lady that has a YouTube channel, uses different type of bowls, made it. That's so cool. That's so cool. I love that. If you have the channel's name, you can type it out. We can check it out. That sounds amazing. Okay, so from the Sea Soul Journeys Oracle, we got gratitude. Okay, so we're navigating the human, the spiritual. We're having all these lessons. We're like sometimes in the grind, sometimes in the relax, sometimes, you know, escaping, sometimes facing. We're going through all these dynamics of contrasting expression. Sometimes the answer is to lean into gratitude. Now, I know some of you, let me know in the comments, some of you were actively using gratitude journals. You've told me about it recently or like in the past few months. Are you still doing that? How are you having your own gratitude practice? It says, may you honor all that you receive, and it has a rainbow here. May you honor all that you receive. And sometimes it's about honoring the lessons we receive and having gratitude for those, even though in the moment we're resisting and we have that resistance and we're like, no, I don't want to deal with this. You know, can we come to a place of gratitude with say, okay, this is an important lesson for me to learn. And I'm going to be going through it. And hopefully the people that are closest to me, my inner circle, the people I love them, they love me. We're going to be able to get through this, whatever it is, whatever it might be triggering in us, right? Or whatever it might be, even just activating. But let me know, do you have a gratitude practice that you do right now? I'm kind of, I kind of have this interesting thing with a gratitude practice. I have like done it where I like really attempt to wake up and immediately go to